Welcome everybody, I'm Taylor Sharp and this is the August meeting of the FileMaker Pro user group in Dallas, Texas. A couple of announcements. Pause is not happening this year, so the fall conference is going to be called Full Access and it's out near San Francisco. It's about $1,000. The difference is, unlike when you spend $1,000 at Claris, you actually get a hotel room and place to stay for this, so it's actually a lot better deal. If you want to let someone else share a room with you, you can even save another like $100. It's a small version of the big Claris conference, so there's probably only 100 and something people at the conference, and it's mostly very technical people that are full-time professionals. If that interests you, come join us October 20th to 23rd. The website is fullaccess.us. I hope to see a bunch of you there. Okay, what is August 22nd? Due date. Need to get your AI certification done by then to retain your Claris partner relationship. If you haven't done your AI one, it really just came out like a month or so ago, so it's new to the training certificate. Go out and get that done and things will be hunky-dory. Paul has something to announce for us here.
Up next month in September, and several of us in the room are going there to present. Matt and I will be co-presenting, Daisy will be presenting, and then some of the other presenters there include Chris Moyer, Joe Scarpetta. Should be a great buildgrowlearn.com.
There you go. Okay, so that one's more business focused, I think.
It's a dual purpose. There's business but also technical.
Some technical, and that will be what location?
That's in Greenville, South Carolina. Beautiful downtown Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay, obviously we're continuing our learning more about the new version of FileMaker 2025. My favorite new feature that's a kind of a small feature is the new Let's Encrypt. Is super easy to do. Steve, he's going to come down here. We're doing single sign-on in Studio, is that right? Okay, well Steve is going to educate us. I look forward to learning some more here. Thank you, Steve.
All right. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. I'm very gratified that you have chosen to spend some of your Friday with us. I am Steve Sykora, president and co-founder of Harmonic Data Associates. We have been a Claris Platinum partner since before it was called Platinum Partner, but back in 2004. And it's my pleasure to introduce you to one of my favorite clients, Independent Support Services. Now, I'm sure many of you have the experience of a client that always seems to stretch the state of your art. This, for Harmonic, is that client. Since 2012, we have developed and iterated a FileMaker-based system that the ISS users long ago named Harmonics. That was gratifying when they did that. Harmonics is used across ISS's enterprise to serve their customers, individuals with developmental disabilities in the state of New York. New York offers a program for these individuals called self-direction. As a participant in the self-direction program, an individual is able to make their own path by living at home or in the community and receiving services and supports customized to their own needs and vision. The program is a win-win by being designed to cost the state less than institutionalized care while providing the individual a much more personalized and integrated experience. ISS serves as a leading fiscal intermediary for the self-direction program. In simple terms, being a fiscal intermediary means that ISS pays the expense on behalf of the participant and then bills the payee, either Medicaid, the state, or the managed care insurance program. After spending years facilitating his disabled son Barry through the healthcare system, Alan Kolchinsky founded ISS in 2003 to help develop the programs that would eventually become self-direction in the state of New York. Today, ISS is the leading New York FI dedicated to self-direction and serves over 2,000 participants. Now, I want to give you some context for the size of this solution. To start, we see the location of the ISS offices by those little blue flags in Monticello and on Long Island. ISS has 3 different groups of users. First, we have admin staff with these bright blue bubbles. There are approximately 150 direct employees of ISS that help participants manage their programs, reimburse their expenses, pay the participants' staff, and bill the participants' payroll and Medicaid expenses to Medicaid and to the state. These users interact primarily with FileMaker in their day-to-day work. Next, we have over 2,000 participants that ISS serves. These individuals need access to Harmonics to review and manage their budget and provide feedback on their supports and services. Participants interact with the Harmonics system through the ISS web portal. And finally, we have over 10,000 community members and professionals that support those participants. This group is made up of parents, neighbors, and relatives acting on the participants' behalf. It also includes staff that are working for the participants and professionals like brokers and clinicians that provide service to the participants. These users also leverage the portal to submit timesheets for payroll, submit expenses for the participant, for reimbursement, submitted invoices for payment. But unfortunately, they have to request changes and updates on behalf of the participant. And to do that, they currently use emails and phone calls to perform these sorts of tasks. How did ISS get here? This is a story of digital transformation iterating across more than a decade. Over that time frame, ISS experienced rapid growth while navigating significant changes in the technical, regulatory, and cultural framework of their industry. When I first met ISS in the fall of 2012, they had a handful of employees serving a couple hundred participants. Paper ruled the day. Most of the data was stored in giant binders. Excel, ADP, and QuickBooks were the only technologies they had to run their business. Integrating FileMaker and leveraging tools to digitize and automate manual processes allowed ISS to rapidly expand in order to service the demand for that new self-direction program. A lot of individuals were clamoring to join, and ISS was at the heart of the storm. From the very beginning, Harmonic was augmenting FileMaker by implementing complementary technologies. Harmonic has always been committed to using the right tool for the job, and sometimes the tool is FileMaker, but not always. For example, Medicaid billing. In order to keep up with the rapid expansion in services, it became critical to automatically generate claims and submit those claims for payment to Medicaid. So Harmonic developed a custom PHP and MySQL-based solution to take the FileMaker claims, generate the appropriate EDI, submit those claims to Medicaid, and parse the resulting remit advice. This addition unlocked ISS's cash flow and accelerated their growth potential. Over the next several years, Harmonic and ISS continued the work of launching a cloud-based web portal to facilitate the thousands of participants and supporting users. Participants could receive budget summaries updated daily. Users were able to email and upload their expenses and invoices. Support staff could enter their timesheets electronically and prove their location via EVV. Video-based e-learning was launched, and multi-factor authentication was added to combat password vulnerabilities. About this time, one need was becoming painfully obvious: portal forms. An organization of this type and magnitude requires a large amount of formal documentation. That documentation had evolved to become a wide variety of handwritten and PDF-based forms and other documents. These documents would be sent to ISS via email, snail mail, even hand delivery. All of these forms needed to be created, maintained, and routed to the appropriate people. They then needed to be acted upon and filed. Listen to the customer describe the effort in creating and publishing just one such form.
The last 2 days, I have worked on and off to modify a form. It's a PDF. So it's a Word document that I made into a PDF. It's been approved. The person I had to make the changes for says, I agree, that's good, thank you. So now I've had to convert that thing to a PDF and add the little labels. And literally one of the windows on my desktop is to make that PDF fillable. And then I have to announce that PDF internally in our announcements Slack channel so that all the admin staff know that this new form is available. And then I have to get my communications gal to put that form, these two new PDFs, the plain, I'm going to print it, I'm going to fill it out, and I'm going to sign it. The PDF fillable form, she's going to have to put those available on the website so that people can find it. And I have to make sure that I tell all these people all these things, and that is already on and off 2 days worth of work. And it's going to be a 3 because my communications gal is not here today. So tomorrow those forms will go on the website. So there you go.
Oof. We needed a system. So after much longing, a detailed design phase for web forms was performed and the project was mapped out. Unfortunately, tyranny of the urgent prevailed and other projects took precedence. We had to rescue an ailing QuickBooks. We had to make updates to support regulatory changes. And we got to build a large feature to support self-service onboarding with integrated electronic payments. What we didn't do was deliver portal forms. When Claris first previewed Studio, I was intrigued, but didn't really understand the vision. Then a few years ago, they presented this graphic. Yes, I thought, that's exactly right. That is how Harmonic thinks and builds many of our systems. FileMaker for internal users, web technologies for external users, and integration technologies for other systems. We signed right up. We had one of the earliest Studio team IDs, and we were excited about the possibilities. Alas, it wasn't to be. As Studio forms were for anonymous users only, that use case just didn't fit any of Harmonic's customers, especially not ISS. ISS has a wide variety of regulatory and compliance obligations that make anonymous data entry a non-starter. But at the Engage Developer Conference this year, Claris introduced a number of new features that were either recently deployed or coming soon for Claris Studio. Most importantly, support for single sign-on using an external identity provider. Bingo. Claris Studio would work. This is how we do portal forms. I made that pitch at our very next ISS meeting, and we got to work. But what is Claris Studio? And what makes it perfect for ISS portal forms? Claris Studio is a modern platform designed from the ground up to support thousands of users via the web. It gives us the ability to quickly and easily, think drag and drop, build sophisticated forms and interactions using multiple different responsive view types, works for mobile, works for desktop, with an ever-increasing feature list. This all works off of native tables, and now with the Claris 25 platform release, including FileMaker 2025, synchronized data sources. And it is now included with your FileMaker license. There is no separate purchase. Altogether, this makes Claris Studio the perfect platform for ISS's Portal Forms project. And I am pleased to announce that as of this week, our first form is live in production. Let me show you. As a participant of the self-direction program, Owen has the luxury and responsibility of hiring his own staff. Owen works with his mother, Maxine, to manage his supports and services. Prior to Portal Forms, Maxine had to email or call ISS when she wanted to request a change in staffing. Let's see how this works now. Owen has decided that he wants to improve his musical skills, and he's always been fascinated by the pipe organ. It just so happens that a rather famous organist works at a church down the road and has agreed to provide lessons to Owen. Maxine needs to alert ISS's People Services team to start the onboarding process, and she is excited to use the new Portal Forms feature for the first time. She logs into the portal with her usual username and password. The ISS portal supports multi-factor authentication via both email and text message. Maxine selects text message to provide the 6-digit code. Once logged in, her home screen looks mostly the same, except for this new Forms widget, where she finds the new hiring form link. She clicks that link, and since this is the first time she's used Portal Forms, she's presented with an OAuth-style authorization request. She agrees, and she is forwarded to the hiring form. Let's see, Owen Ellis is her son's name. Demo Maxine at isny.org. Owen has already launched. Johan has never been employed with ISS. Johan Bach, 800-555-1212. J. Bach at organfantastic.org. Won't need to drive, not a family member, not a guardian. Let's see, special ComHab, very special ComHab, $35 an hour, and organ lessons. Yep. And she can review her submission, make sure it all looks correct, fill out her name, and provide a digital squiggle. Click Submit. There we go. She has submitted that form. Now, to make sure it all worked right, we sent her an email. So she pulls up her email sent via Claris Connect, and she has a link. She can click on that link, and sure enough, there's the form details that she submitted, also rendered from Claris Studio. Now, note, that was a completely separate interaction with Claris Studio, but it didn't ask her to authenticate. That is because she is still logged into the portal. And so behind the scenes, Claris Studio reached out to the portal, said, is this person logged in? Portal said yes. Claris Studio rendered the form. Pretty great. And now, I am pleased to introduce Liz Lucan. Liz is ISS's Director of Database Operations, and I've been working with Liz for a long time. So, hi, Liz.
Hi. Yes, we've been working together for 10 years plus since you started and I started. So altogether, ISS, we've been working with Harmonic for over a decade now. When I was asked what this web forms project is going to do for us, finally, can I just say finally with all caps and exclamation points, we've needed this since our very first portal went live, however many years ago. But it was always pushed to the back burner, too complicated, too expensive, higher priorities. Now Harmonic is going to make it happen. I don't have to worry about anything with them. We'll figure it all out together. I'm really looking forward to having my team be able to build, publish, maintain these forms so that I can have Harmonic just keep working on the hard stuff. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Liz. How did we make this work? To tell that story, I am joined by 3 members of the Harmonic dev team that brought this project to life. To start, let's explain how we hooked up Claris Studio to the ISS portal, and to do that, I would like to introduce Anthony.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, everybody. I'm Anthony Nguyen. I build integrations between systems at Harmonic. Like Steve mentioned earlier, we really believe in using the right tool for the right job. Nowadays, there's web services for just about everything. If you wanted to process credit cards or if you wanted to send text messages, all you have to do is build an integration to the right service. But ISS, they wanted to build web forms. And not only that, they wanted to build web forms that are tightly integrated with the system that we built them. And they wanted to be able to do all of this without our help. We spent quite a bit of time trying to find a tool that would meet their needs. And most of the tools we found were either too simple to use, too costly, or too complex or difficult to integrate. Building our own solution was an expensive endeavor, and we just did not have the time and resources to do it. When Claris Studio was announced, we were hopeful. However, we were sorely disappointed by how little we could do with it when it first launched. Fast forward 3 years later, and Claris, to their credit, listened to community feedback and proved that they had a vision for what Studio should become. They expanded Studio with all these features and added things like being able to use external authentication and sync data to it, which is exactly what we needed. Because in the end, what we want is not just plain text forms. I know some of you have had a similar experience to what I experienced. I've gone to my bank's website to fill out a form, and I was forced to fill out every stinking detail about myself, even when I know the bank should have my information. Once I've gotten it all filled out, I double and triple check what I've entered, and still somehow I managed to transpose 2 numbers in my address. Annoying. People just hate filling out forms, and manual data entry is extremely frustrating and error-prone. There should be no reason for the bank to make me fill out my details that they should already have, because in the end, they know who I am. I'm logged into the website, and I have an account with them, so they're showing my name. Why am I filling it out? We don't want that for our users. We want to reduce the time and effort it takes for them to fill out a form. We want to reduce the likelihood of errors, and we want to limit the kinds of friction that the user would experience so that they can fill out their forms in a timely manner. So how do we do this? How do we identify a user and connect them to their personal info? How do we do it securely? Because of the nature of ISS's services has them dealing with PII and PHI. And how do we do it in a way that is seamless to the user? That means no weird authentication tokens, no separate unmanaged accounts that they have to register and log in separately, and no extra work on ISS's side to get users connected. Both the user experience and security are important to us. When we learned that Claris added the option to hook up Claris Studio to an external identity provider, either through OpenID Connect or SAML, we were excited. At minimum, what we could do is have authentication in place where we could control and identify who is filling out a given form. So, what were our options? There are several identity providers out there that are supported by Claris, but those ended up being very expensive. Some of them wanted $5 to $10 per month, and when we're talking more than 10,000 users, that's an incredibly big bill. We also didn't like the idea of changing our registration and login process and storing our users' info somewhere else. Then we asked a question: what would it take to make it so that the ISS portal could act as an identity provider? To answer that, we first have to answer, what is OpenID Connect, or OIDC, and how does it work? OIDC is an authentication protocol based on OAuth 2. It lets websites delegate authentication to a separate identity provider. If you've ever used the login with Google or login with Facebook buttons, you've likely gone through an OIDC flow. So how it works is the client, Claris Studio in this case, initiates a login request and redirects the user to the server, in this case, the ISS portal. The user follows the login procedure implemented by the server, and once they've been successfully logged in, they are greeted with an authorization prompt if they are logging in for the first time. If not, and they've given their consent, then they will pass through it without needing to agree again. This prompt exists to communicate to the user what information the server is going to be given to the client. If the user decides to proceed, an auth code will then be passed back to the clients, and then that code is used to generate a token back on the server. And then if the token request is successful, the client can then use that token to get the user's identity from the server and give them access to the client's services. Because this is a standard that Claris uses to speak to external identity providers, anything that implements this flow can provide a single sign-on to Claris Studio. So then that brings us to the portal itself. The portal is built upon a popular PHP framework called Laravel. It uses an extension of Laravel's authentication system. Luckily for us, all it takes to implement the OIDC protocol is two packages. The first is Laravel Passport, a package maintained by Laravel, which extends Laravel's authentication system with OAuth 2. The second package is a package simply named OIDC Connect, and implements the OIDC layer. With those two installed, we're ready to share ISS portals users to Claris Studio. What we do is we deploy the encryption keys used to generate tokens, create a new client, providing Claris Studio's redirect URL to Passport, and then provide the generated client ID and secret to Studio. That's all. Studio will now use the portal to identify our users. We also customized Passport a little bit, themed the authentication window to fit ISS's branding, and modified what data is being used for the OIDC identity token so that we can better identify our users on Claris Studio. This opens up the door for us to pre-populate the forms for more details on what we did and why we did it. Check out our upcoming white paper. The result of all that is that we're providing the users a seamless experience. They will log in to the portal, see what forms they need to fill out, and if they decide to click on one, they get a seamless and direct, from the user's perspective, access to the form. The users are happy because they don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops. ISS is happy because they don't have to deal with as many data entry headaches. And we're happy because we can move on to more interesting projects. So the data's all hooked up and ready for us to use in Studio. So now, to give us a tour of Studio and how we've configured it, I'd like to introduce to you Alex.
Thanks, Anthony. So my name is Alex Jeane. I'm a low-code engineer here at Harmonic, and my tasking on this project was twofold. So first, build out all the forms that we have in Studio. We have historically been a FileMaker shop, so I had to figure out, okay, what are really all the differences that are in Studio? Things that we've taken granted for in FileMaker that may or may not be there or may be done completely different. The second task is to organize the hubs and security groups of which those forms are accessed. So I'll be showing you guys those in just a second. So first, let's briefly review just this authorization stack that Anthony kind of detailed. It had to be custom, no way around that. So ISS has specific needs. They shouldn't have to pay a giant bill forever. Alternative is that we just have all users just log in with Claris accounts. And that's a way to solve the problem. It is a very poor way of solving it. They would have to wrangle 10,000 users. So anytime a user leaves, ISS have to manually intervene and shuffle things around. They do not need to be doing that. Plus, users don't just need another login. Let's be frank, sometimes users aren't the best of maintaining their passwords. So the custom route was really just an absolute must-have for this project to go anywhere. Also, ISS invested a great deal of time and attention, money, just to get all their users in the portal. And the more services we can tie into that base, the more the investment makes sense. So as Steve said, Claris rolled out at external identity support earlier this year, and that's how we tap into that base of users. So users logging in to ISS's copy of Studio belong to one of three groups. First is our garden variety portal user. They are either participants, like Owen, or they work directly alongside them, like a parent. These users enter that data, and data that would previously and often filled out on physical paperwork and shuffled about the world. Second group is the ISS staff. They consume that data. And the last is the dev team. So they create the forms of which those previous groups interact with. So, big thing to remember, external identity support, when you set up in Studio, users are placed into one or more Studio groups upfront and only upfront. Groups defined like externally outside of Studio, they cannot be seen in Studio. So if you make a change to one of those external groups, Studio's groups remain unaffected. They do not talk. This is a key differentiator with FileMaker. Claris has spoken about they want to be able to have those external groups pass through, and we wait for that with bated breath. Hint, hint. So for now, let's actually look how this appears in Studio. Go over here, and then, all right, cool. So here's our user base. On the right, We have our list of users. On the left are the groups which those users are placed into. Here, just so you can see outlined, are 3 groups that we talked about, broken out in a little bit different way, but it's just for internal purposes. Our data entry, largely participants, but also people working participants. 2 dev teams right here. And then a people services group. This is an internal ISS team. So people services are the ones consuming the data. There is also this group right here called program services for another ISS department, and fully expect they will be roped into this at the right time. There just is not a form to actually deploy for them. So maybe one thing I want to call out on this screen specifically, and you actually saw just a little screenshot of this briefly from Anthony. This is the config for external IDP. You look on down here. These are the default groups, okay? So we specify them out here in the main window. They show up, and all new users coming in through SSO, they are now assigned to data entry. And so for a user base that is 10,000 plus, that's exactly what we want to have happen. They are data entry users. They are additionally what's called a member, not a manager. Managers have these ultimate level powers where they can see and do anything, but for almost every person coming in, ISS has nothing to do. They're just immediately data entry, and they're a member. And that's exactly what we want to have happen. Going over here, here's our hub view. So publicly shared, there's nothing in there. Within Harmonic's own copy of Studio, we do use that. There's just not really a use case for this project because, once again, we keep everything behind SSO. But the FMPUG survey that we're going to be sending out to you guys, that's broadcast out through here. So, because that's all done in Studio as well. In the admin and database hubs right here, you see there's a 0, okay? So this just specifies what are the members that are attached to this hub. There are none. That's because you have to be a manager to get in. So for the case of the admin, this is where forms are built out. Because there's no real simple way to deploy a form from one copy of Studio to another, we lock it down here and just add it out to another hub. The database hub is really just for things specific to Liz and her dev team. Under the My Forms, this is for data entry. Whenever they go in, they type in something, and that's exactly what we saw over here on the hiring form that Steve demoed. This one has a little 1 right here because there is one group attached to the hub. It's also filtered, all right? It is filtered down by a username, meaning we don't want users to see each other's data. That should be pretty obvious. But you can see your own. Within the people services, so this is once again internal ISS staff, they can see the full list of responses. There's also that 1 under the group and member access, down to themselves, and they have no restrictions. That's, of course, by design. So Steve already showed you guys what it looks like whenever Maxine fills out that hiring form and gets a response. Let's see what it looks like when one of those internal people services user receives an email notification for that same form being filled out. They want to view that response. So we see here, internal staff has received an email particular just at this hiring form. They click on that link, they're brought over to Studio, they see full list of responses. The sort by is creation date descending. So they'll see that most recent submission, the one relevant to the video, is up top. If you want to find, especially for Maxine submissions, you do that in the search bar. And any relevant records have that little purple highlight to it. It can go across multiple columns. We're swapping out different search queries. We even pick up a John because we typed in JOH. It's interesting. Key thing to note, we've got different tools here. Filter, group, sort, and color. Yep, right there. And data cannot be edited. That is by design. We don't want people playing with things. You can import, you can export. When we go back out to the hub view, that member access cannot be touched. That's because this person is not a manager, they're a member. You go back in, the sort order that was canceled is respected. So it's now creation data is at the bottom, and there is that submission that was put in by Maxine earlier. So that's how we organize hubs, users, forms. I am going to pass things over to Jean to show you how forms are styled and made available to portal users.
Thank you, Alex. So my name is Jean Mizero. I'm the UI UX designer here at Harmonic. And as you can tell already, we care deeply about user experience. And on this project, our goal was to make the experience great, both for ISS and their users on the portal. When we were working on this project, my task was to make sure that we accomplished two goals. The first goal being that we can create forms that can work seamlessly with the portal and work in the way that portal users expect them to work. The next goal was to make sure that we can come up with a simple process for creating these forms, a process that would require minimal development, a process that could be repeatable and handed off to a non-developer. And this is where we're able to empower the customer with the ability to create and manage these forms themselves. So you may be wondering, why does this matter? Why go through all those efforts? When you're used to dealing with paper forms or PDFs, you are constrained by that medium. Now, with an opportunity like this, you can take that paper form and build exactly the same thing, but in a digital format. And that's easy, right? But essentially, that's what a PDF does. And we didn't want to give ISS another PDF. So with the process with what we built with Claris Studio, now you are no longer constrained by that physical media. So we expanded the possibilities of what ISS can do. They are now enabled to ask relevant questions and validations, and they are now able to eliminate unnecessary work on their end and also on the portal user side. So how did we accomplish this? This is what the portal looks like. When a portal user logs in, they expect everything that they click from on here to behave, to look, and feel the same way. So with Studio, we were able to visually style and customize the forms themselves to look and feel as part of the portal. We were also able to customize the passport authorization window to do the same, to look and feel as part of the portal. To accomplish those goals, the other thing we had to do was making decisions to decide what types of views should be used for specific things. This required understanding what the goals were and also to understand which features are available in Studio and how can we leverage them to accomplish those goals. For example, you saw that on the forms that we are using, we use the form view because of its simplicity, but also in the ability it gives us to control what the users on the portal can do. So now, having accomplished this, what's next? We have created the ability for Liz and her team to set up and manage these forms. And we have shown you how we have enabled portal users to authenticate in Studio using their existing portal credentials. And we also shown you how we organized the right people to be able to see the right thing, so portal users can see their own submissions. Next, we are giving them the ability to create these forms and make them available in the portal. We've built this interface that allows them to paste in the name from Studio. They can paste the link and then give it a description. They're able to specify which user based on their privileges, roles. They can even select a specific user. They can then determine where on the portal this form will be showing up. Select the category, and that's it. They can just hit save, and the portal will show up on that widget that we saw earlier in the demo. Now, you saw that when a portal user submits a form, they receive an email with a link to view their submissions. We don't want portal users to shuffle through their inbox trying to find the form that they submitted maybe months ago or perhaps years ago. So we've built this interface that allows them to view their portal submissions or forms that are available to them, view which submissions they have already made. They are also able to submit new forms. This allows them to view all those forms that are available to them and also submit new forms if they need to. Now, to tell you more about what's coming next, let's go back to Steve.
Thanks, Sean. So we're at the beginning of a long journey here. I am very excited to write the next chapters in this story. Now, as Jean showed, we're going to deliver some key custom code extensions to the ISS portal to make the setup and use of portal forms simple and seamless. We are going to leverage Claris Connect to add each of those submitted forms to the MySQL table on the portal side so that we can keep track of what they've submitted and not depend on email. Liz has a special hatred for email, and we'd like to get away from that. We are going to upgrade ISS to FileMaker 2025 as quickly as possible. There are a lot of reasons for that. FileMaker 2025 is a tremendous release, has a ton packed into it. AI, anyone? But it's a big win for portal forms in that FileMaker 2025 and Claris Studio real-time synchronize data, right? Bidirectionally using OData and webhooks. So what this feature will allow us to do is easily reference all of our list objects like participants, contacts, orgs, etc. And we'll be able to use that to populate fields, generate contextually relevant drop-down lists, support data validation, flow routing, you name it, and deliver the promise that Anthony suggested in not making the user feel dumb because we already know who they are. And lastly, we are playing at Harmonic, we are playing with those same OData enhanced calls and webhooks to do backend synchronizations directly with the ISS portal on the MySQL side, and we're very excited about that. As Liz said, I am incredibly excited to write the ISS portal forms story with my team and with the client, and I look forward to taking everyone along for the ride. Wasn't that fun? On to questions. We have Liz from ISS on the customer side. And then, of course, myself and the dev team. Paul, do we have anything waiting on the team side?
Gary Sprung asks, it looks like a lot of this solution on the portal side requires PHP programming skill. What if our development company does not have that skill? Will Claris Studio eventually be able to replace some of the features of the portal?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. As I said in my presentation, the portal itself, very large, expensive, custom set of code developed over many years for ISS, but absolutely requires knowledge and experience in that technology stack, which a lot of us don't have. I personally don't have. I employ people that have, but I personally don't have. I couldn't do that work. Yes, I think the answer is yes. Claris Studio offers a lot of potential to replace what we do with the custom web portal, especially with the ability to synchronize data from FileMaker. So just to give an example, one of the things that the portal does is it allows a participant to see what their budget summary is, to see how many dollars they've spent in a given period of time. And I think it's very conceivable to imagine that you might be able to synchronize the data that's driving that and render that in Claris Studio. Claris Studio has a lot of options, graphs, spreadsheet views, a lot of really interesting things, and they're continuing to develop it. So I absolutely am looking forward to leveraging Claris Studio for customer portals more rapidly and with less developer skill needed.
I would suggest looking into custom views within Studio. That is something I think whenever they rolled it out, I didn't quite get, but the more I researched it, there are a myriad of options. Nowhere near this complexity available in general web code like PHP, but it is impressive. You can relate tables together, even like the sort of hub view, you probably could recreate that within its own view. So there is a lot there.
We got a question from Taylor.
Okay, I'm a small shop FileMaker developer. I've got customers that have FileMaker server, and they have clients that they would like to be logging in to do things like we're talking here. Studio seems to be something coming this way, seems to be pushed this way. It got pushed this way, and as you said, it just wasn't acceptable for some of the limitations up front. I ignored it then. A lot of changes have come to 2025. I'm trying to readdress it. In fact, one of my clients back there, hey Jim, has a need right now that would work well with this. I'm looking at different options. Of course, there's other things out there, FM Better Forms, so I'm comparing that. There's just doing it in WebDirect, which is easy, but has its limitations. And of course, I want to look at Studio. But one of the things that most of my clients have, a lot of these small businesses they have a 25 or 50 user site license, okay? So one of the things that I'm going to say here, this is from Scott Lamers, Claris International. It says, the Claris customer console does not support site license contracts at this time, which is why you cannot see the option there. That was one of the questions I have with him for one of his licenses. And he also says, second, relating to the Studio issue, for those of you that are developers, not my customers, but developers like I am as a Claris partner, our contracts are not eligible for Claris Studio and Claris Connect access. So that basically means we have to get a different license. So the most common license that's out there that all my clients have, a site license, is not eligible for these things. So I'm immediately seeing this is where originally we had FileMaker, and at one point we had Peter going around saying we got all you need is some user interface thing like Studio and Marie in the back end. It's going to replace FileMaker and that's going to all go away. We've finally gotten back. We've got a new CEO that's saying FileMaker is the center of our business and these others will be features of it. I love that. But I'm seeing at this point here, just from the licensing, I want to do maybe this for Jim. Where are my options, or am I still just back at barricades to let me go look at FM Better Forms or do it just in WebDirect?
Wouldn't it be great if Rick Kalman was here?
Oh, boy, I'd love it.
Because I don't have an authoritative answer, but I think I maybe know a piece of the puzzle. And so just to start with, ISS has what kind of license, Fred?
ISS has 115 user or thereabouts user license, individual user license.
So not a site license.
Not a site license.
It's a volume license.
A volume license. Okay.
Which costs a lot more.
And yeah, we have lots of our clients have site licenses as well, Taylor. So I think it's a notable question. I wonder how much of that is that you can auto deploy it through the customer console versus that's their intention with the licensing. The reason I say that is some of what I read when they first were rolling it out was that we've got the customer console like auto, you can do it yourself, DIY, up and running for this subset. We don't have it up and running for other things. Now, we know they've absolutely stated it's not supported with SBA so far. So we know that's out. But when I deployed for ISS, there was no customer console, as this was several months ago when I got them spun up, and it was an email to my partner support guy, and it took a day, and then they spun it up. So my hope would be, and I think the intent is that all of those things are supported in the license. What's not yet supported is the button to do it through the console. And we're going to have to make the call, make the connection with the partner team to get it spun up for our customers. And let me just show, I'm currently logged in here. This is my login. I'm logged in here for Independent Support Services, my customer, but I also have the Harmonic Data Associates team and an ETS team that I'm a part of. I'm logged in this way. Our Harmonic team is a wide open team. The Claris license, and just riffing on what you were talking about, note this little thing right here, Claris licensing details, views remaining to share, right? The base license so when we say Claris Studio is included with your FileMaker license, What's included is the first 10 public views. There's no count on how many people can use that view, use those views, right? You can have, I guess in theory, you could have 100,000 people use those views, right? There's not really a limit. The limit is on the number of public views. So for ISS, we have the first 10. Now, what they're planning to do is there's the standard tier, that's what gets your 10. The max tier gets you infinite, unlimited, right? So 2 tiers. I think in ISS's case, it'll be a bit before we hit that 11th form, though probably not super long once this thing gets rolling. And I don't yet have an answer on what the cost difference will be. We have asked, Claris hasn't landed that plane yet. So I think it's another example of we're so early on and with the new licensing and the 25 rollout.
I just want to say
it remains unknown.
We pressed them to get the information. For today, the urgency was important, and we pressed them, and they said they haven't even released numbers to their salespeople, so they don't know, and they don't want to tell people. I will tell you, if you have Cloud, FileMaker Cloud, it's a 2x.
Right. So what you're talking about, Fred, is if we go to.
So I asked Claris specifically about the pricing here. I said, hey, this is what you do for your cloud product. And they said, oh, it probably won't be like that.
And I think there's good reason why it won't be like that. There's good reason. So I think what you're saying is our hope would be that it's not 2x.
That it's not 2x, yeah.
Price. And I think there's good reason why it won't be, because if you look at the difference between starter and max with cloud, you're getting a lot more storage, you're getting a lot more retention, backups. There's all kinds of additional cloud costs that go with that. So I think it's going to be less than 2x. I will stand up here and say, I bet, Steve says it's going to be less than 2x, but we don't know anything more than that.
Steve, Dennis Burnham has his hand up.
I guess I'm following up on what Taylor said, and of course I want you to give my best regards to Rick Hellman, where she was there. Do you see this as being something that will be in the near future, the not so near future, or never? Certain things with Claris are never.
Can you repeat this, Dennis? Are we talking about which licenses support Studio included? Or
I understand that with SBA, it's a hard no at this point.
Right.
But the site license seems to be the kind of thing that maybe we should hold our breath and wait a few months, or is that unrealistic?
So, again, to repeat, I can't answer authoritatively. My understanding, I believe the answer is that it is supported now, but it is not directly configurable by the partner for the licensee. You have to manually ask Claris to spin up the team for that license. So the way teams work, Chris, if you'll share my screen again, think of like team equals license, right? So I have a Harmonic team that is connected to my Harmonic FileMaker license, which is it's also a site license, 25-seat, not for resale site license. And ISS has a team connected to their license. So I think the answer right now is it is included, but you have to ask manually. Whereas if you have a standard volume license, you can go just to the customer console and we can deploy it for you. The partner can do it. We don't have to ask Claris's permission. So I think the issue is just that we have to ask manually, not that the license isn't included. And yes, I would hope that they address that. I think they've got some tech debt on their Claris console to deal with. It would be my guess.
We have more questions in-house. In the world of Teams, do
I
we
have
any
a question
questions?
I want to ask Liz if nobody else has anything.
Uh-oh.
So Liz, having seen all that from that perspective, we've got the hiring form ready to go. Of course, the reason there are only like 5 users, SSO users right now is because we haven't actually officially told anybody. It is public and live.
Right.
And you saw a live demo of it, but we haven't announced it yet. That'll happen in the next week or 2 or 3, whenever all those ducks are in a row. Any guess where we go next? Do we keep doing HR forms? Is that kind of the most pressing need?
No. I want my forms in there, baby. I want my electronic payments access for organizations form in there. I want the who gets to have the right to do things on my portal for my participant, which we call the web approver form. I want all those annoying little things that like bombard my team on an endless daily basis to be electronic forms, like immediately, as soon as humanly possible. So I'm going to get, as soon as I can get program services to give me like a person who's going to actually check their emails for forms, and I can nail down like routes and processes and who goes where and what and all that. Like, I'm so excited. I'm like a kid at Christmas. This is like a new toy. I can't wait to learn how to make my own for real on my own, show my team how to do it, get them doing things, contact updates for staff, for families, like all the things that nobody gets. And I have to constantly go back. You sure about this? You sure about that? How about this? What about that? I'm so waiting. Like, when can I start? Sorry, are you sorry you asked?
No, that was a perfect answer. On a related answer, so we talked about FileMaker 2025, the ability to synchronize data and really replacing the email at the end of that chain with, and I think this does speak to some of the power of the integration of FileMaker and Claris Studio. So we're going to be able to replace it with a permanent "you submitted these forms" list. Can you just say in your own words, like, why do you hate email so much, and why do you want that "you submitted these forms" list for your users on the portal?
So many reasons. We have, in our Harmonic system right now, I think we're up to 23,000 contact records. So not counting organizations. So we're over 20,000 contacts, individual people right now. They don't read their emails. They change their emails addresses. They don't tell us. Things bounce. They report our emails as abuse. Amazon Web Services stops sending emails because people report them as abuse. Some ISPs just blanket blacklist our entire issny.org randomly, so nobody at optonline.net on Long Island gets our emails for who knows how long until IT gets them to stop. And so I have been on a campaign for more years than I can remember to get out of the emailing business, because the important things that we need to pass on to people, they actually need to get. And the only way to get them to get it and keep it and know it, and I have proof that I did it and here it is, I sent it, you got it, and so all of those things that make troubleshooting and solving problems so much harder, if it lives on the portal, if the user can see it on the portal and my admin staff can see it within our FileMaker Harmonic system, all of that nonsense and noise and complexity and problems you cannot solve when an email doesn't get sent or received or whatever, we have no control over that. I can't fix that for anyone. But all of that just goes away. It's just gone. You go on the portal, one ring to rule them all. Everything you need is there. Everything you did, it's all there. It's like where I need to be. It's where I've wanted to be for years.
So are you saying that the portal is Sauron?
No, I'm saying email providers are Sauron, man.
Is my theology wrong?
ISPs. I'm still trying to figure out, am I Samwise? I don't want to be Frodo, that's for sure.
Paul.
Steve, Gary Sprung is asking, what service do you use via Connect to send emails, and why that one?
That's an Alex question. Alex, please speak to that.
Yeah, so we just use Amazon SES, and as to why, it was already there. That's really the answer. It did work. You just have to find what are the appropriate credentials, you plug it into Connect, and it worked fine.
Yeah, and just to riff on that a little bit, Gary, obviously, if you're not in AWS, if you're not an Amazon customer, that's probably not the reason to become an AWS customer. But if you are already in AWS, SES and SNS, which is a text messaging version of the same thing, is a really good, robust kind of tool to send a lot of emails and notifications. That's how we send many messages for ISS, including all those OTP codes.
And for those of you wondering, that's simple email service and simple notification services.
Anthony and Matt on our team just also configured external IDP with our team last night with Intra ID. So Harmonic does use, we live both in the Azure world and the AWS world, and we have our AD services connected between the two with ample quantities of duct tape, bubble gum, and baling wire. So we wanted to get Studio connected up to our external IDP for the logical reasons, and they got that done last night. What you'll notice is that it looks shockingly similar to what it looked like with ISS's config. But Anthony, any thoughts about that process you can share with us, getting that done?
Getting the portal hooked up as an identity provider was like several times easier than finding the right thing to click. Because, of course, Microsoft being Microsoft puts links all over the place, and you spend most of your time hunting for those links. And documentation isn't all that great. You're looking for a specific thing, and you click through 3 articles, and eventually you find the answer.
And where did you find it?
Oh yeah, we were looking for where the metadata URL lives, and they put a bunch of documentation into a code block. So in my mind, oh yeah, code block, I'm gonna skim it, ignore it. But no, like I'm searching for, I think it was like entity. Entity only shows up inside the code block, and there's a note at the bottom of the code block that says, oh yeah, to get to where the URL is, go to this place in the dashboard. I was like, what? You couldn't have put this as normal documentation. You had to put it in a code block that gets cut off because there's no line wrapping. It's Microsoft. What are you going to do?
All right, we are at our time. Any closing remarks for us, Steve?
Only closing remark is, like anything, you got to start, right? So if you haven't played with Studio, start playing with it. It really is a great tool. It's not the right tool for everything, but it is a really good tool. It's a powerful tool. Claris is investing heavily in it and has a lot to offer. So thanks everybody for your time today. Appreciate it. Yes, and please fill out the survey on the screen. Check out that giant QR code. Thank you.